On paper, Japan shouldn't exist. Mountains eat up 80% of the land. Farmland barely exists. Energy shipped in from abroad. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, all waiting to wipe it out. And yet, Japan is one of the largest economies on Earth. How? Fact 50. Japan is an archipelago with over 6,800 islands in total, and around 6,000 are uninhabited. Connecting them into a unified country with accessible transportation has been a giant headache for most of Japan's history. Not to mention, those islands stretch over 1,900 miles, over 3,000 kilometers. If you dropped Japan onto North America, it'd reach from Halifax straight down to Florida. However, Japan's long stretch from north to south brings an unexpected benefit. You can experience everything from alpine winters to tropical summers in a single trip, from Hokkaido's ski resorts to Hateruma's subtropical beaches in Okinawa. Number 49, Japan may look small on the map, but it hides a whopping 18,500-mile coastline, longer than America's, and it's not for sunbathing. Those shores are stacked with natural deep-water gateways like Tokyo, Yokohama, and Kobe that powered Japan's rise in global trade. Today, the country runs over 1,000 ports, from mega-hubs to tiny fishing harbors. Australia, 20 times bigger, manages only 70, but hey, they've got kangaroos. Number 48. If you've ever wondered why Japan experiences so many natural disasters, it's because the country is located on the infamous Ring of Fire, where 4 tectonic plates collide. This leaves it vulnerable to earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions, as it also has at least 186 volcanoes sitting in and around it, 60 of them currently active. However, the same tectonic plate location that causes the country so many headaches created Japan to begin with. The island rose through the surface of the ocean due to the area's tectonic activity. Number 47. Japan is the 62nd biggest country in the world, with just under 147,000 square miles, about 381,000 square kilometers. But looks can be deceiving. Japan has islands, lots of them, and they're basically cheat codes for ocean real estate. Scattered across the Pacific, they give Japan the 8th largest exclusive economic zone in the world, an ocean territory 12 times its land size. That's space to fish, drill, explore, and research, all unlocked by a string of islands that make Japan look small on the map, but huge at sea. Fact 46. For decades, Japan was the heavyweight champ of fishing, hauling in more than anyone else from the 1930s to the 1980s. These days, the catch isn't quite as impressive. Overfishing and rivals muscling in have knocked Japan down the rankings, but it's still holding strong in the top dozen. And when the ocean pushed back, Japan got clever. Instead of only chasing fish, it started farming the sea. Bays and estuaries were turned into underwater pastures, raising shellfish, seaweed, and more. Now those ocean farms crank out even more than the traditional fleets, proof that Japan didn't just fish the sea, it hacked it. Number 45. When it comes to food, it's a good thing Japan has so much access to fish and marine life around it, because its land isn't exactly what you'd call farmer-friendly. Only about 20% of the country's land can be farmed. Honestly, it's a miracle the place became an empire at all. Other rich countries tend to have much more potential farming land available. Germany, similar in size, has 33.4% arable land. The largest stretch of flat arable land is the Kanto Plain, and it's no coincidence that Japan put its capital and biggest city, Tokyo, right on top of it. And if farming wasn't hard enough, Japan's geography throws in another cruel twist. The ground itself can't be trusted to stay still. Fact 44. Since 1995, Japan has experienced over 70 earthquakes of magnitude 6 and above. Since 80% of the world's earthquakes occur on the Ring of Fire, that's not too surprising, but the damage it has caused to Japan has been wildly costly, in terms of both money and human lives. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake and resulting tsunami has been called the costliest disaster in history. It was a magnitude 9.1 earthquake off the coast of Honshu, and the resulting tsunami caused $300 billion in damage, with 19,000 people losing their lives. After the Tohoku quake and tsunami had both subsided, 450,000 people were left homeless. Fact 43, let's get back to agriculture. Why does Japan have such little land available for farming? It mostly has to do with the never-ending mountains running through most of its 4 main islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. Various sources list Japan as 75 to 80% mountainous, which is great for Instagram shots of Mount Fuji, but likes aren't much help when it comes to uniting a country under one government. For most of Japan's history, the mountain ranges were a problem, giving rise to a decentralized feudal system that lasted until the Meiji Restoration in 1868. Even modern technology and development hasn't completely erased these feudal boundaries. The country's 47 prefectures still roughly follow the mountain boundaries of former feudal territories. Number 42, this fragmented system, combined with the difficulty of uniting isolated communities, left much of the real power in the hands of rural villages and families. Until 1600, even local rulers lacked true national authority. Villages relied on their own councils to maintain order, protect water rights, and collect taxes, retaining independence from regional governments and fostering a communal approach to problem solving. Many experts attribute the modern Japanese ethos of collectivism, at least in part, to this feudal system of government. Number 41. Culturally, Japan's mountains and its natural beauty have inspired some of the nation's most famous traditions. Zen gardens, tea houses, flower arranging, and even ink painting all draw in some way from the grandeur of a wild landscape that covers most of the country. They also feature prominently in the Shinto religion, still followed by over 48% of Japan today. It places emphasis on mountains as the home of gods and spirits, known as kami. Fact number 40. Thanks to the lack of suitable farming land, a lot of Japan's wild nature has been left untouched, resulting in acres and acres of pristine forests, approximately 66.7% of the national land area. By comparison, only 40% of Canada is forested, and just 33% of the US and Germany. This not only gives Japan endless wilderness to admire and explore, but also gives a massive natural carbon sink. According to Climate Scorecard, its forests absorb 15 million tons of CO2 each year, a significant boost toward the goal of carbon neutrality by 2050, assuming they don't cut it all down to build parking lots. Fact 39. Japan's geography is a paradox. Mountains steal farmland, islands scatter people, and the sea starves crops. Yet each one flips into a strength. But one problem was harder to spin: getting around. Steep ranges split communities, so Japan blasted tunnels, raised viaducts, and built the Shinkansen, a bullet train rocketing across the country at 200 miles an hour, 322 kilometers an hour, mostly to reach somewhere else that's just as mountainous, only faster. The first line cost a staggering 1.8 trillion yen, up to 3.6 billion per kilometer. And when mountains weren't enough, Japan decided to flex even more and drilled straight under the sea, linking Honshu to Hokkaido with a tunnel even longer than the Channel Tunnel between the UK and France. Number 38, yet in an ongoing trend for Japan, and in this video, all these mountains contributed to a positive side effect: the rapid urbanization of the country. Despite having the 11th largest population in the world, Japan isn't that big. Similar to the state of California, but with more than 3 times its population. And the country's many, many mountains, have I mentioned the mountains before, are closed off to large human settlements. That means Japan's population has to squeeze into about 1/3 of its land area, the size of South Korea. No wonder it feels crowded. Number 37. Japan is a nation of city dwellers. Out of 123 million people, nearly all are packed into urban centers, since mountains and forests swallow most of the countryside. Tokyo alone has 38 million people. That's more than New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles combined. Plenty of options on the dating apps, but good luck finding somewhere that isn't already booked for dinner. Fact 36. In an effort to expand the area available for urbanization, Japanese engineers and urban designers also became masters of land reclamation. And this started in the country way back in the Edo period, in the 1600s. To keep expanding, Tokyo's residents filled in the wetlands around the imperial palace, a practice repeated throughout the modern era as the city sprawled in every direction. Today, around 20% of the surface area of Tokyo Bay has been reclaimed by the city, hosting major projects like Tokyo International Airport, Disneyland, and Yokohama Seaport. Fact number 35. Because most Japanese people live in places where you can't swing your arm without hitting 5 other people, they've generally figured out a much better use of space. For example, even way back during the Tokugawa period, 1600 to 1868, Japanese people used readily movable furniture instead of the heavy, permanent furniture favored by the West. This allowed for a more efficient use of limited space. That helps homeowners a lot when the average Japanese home is around 1,300 square feet, 120 square meters, compared to the average French house, which is almost 1,200 square feet, 111 square meters, and the average US house coming in at 2,400 square feet, about 220 square meters. Number 34, these densely populated urban centers made efficient public transportation a no-brainer. Japan was one of the first 10 countries in the world to develop a subway system, establishing the Ginza line in Tokyo, connecting Asakusa and Ueno stations in 1927. Today, Shinjuku Station in central Tokyo retains the title of busiest subway station in the world, handling an average of 3.64 million passengers, just under the population of the city of Los Angeles, every single day. Tokyo's public transit system also ranks as 3rd best in the world, with 94% of over 20,000 respondents on a 2023 survey saying Tokyo is easy to navigate by public transport. Number 33. This benefit of dense urban centers also extends to the development of sanitation systems, which the country started implementing way back in the Tokugawa period, around 1603 onwards. Japanese sanitation systems of the era were often considered more advanced than those of Western cities. Advanced sanitation, coupled with Japan's isolation at the time, more on that later, helped its cities grow rapidly without the plague-like diseases that so often struck developing Western centers. Even so, Japanese cities still saw outbreaks of illnesses like smallpox. Fact 32. Japan is home to nearly 10% of the world's most innovative companies, and automation has become the country's safety net as its workforce shrinks. There are around 3 automated workers for every 100 people. Only Korea, Singapore, and Germany pack in more. But in Japan, these are more than just robots. Thanks to Shinto animist traditions, even tools are believed to hold a spirit. That makes the automated workers feel less like soulless equipment and more like metallic companions. In a nation with fewer young workers each year, it's a helping hand. People remain central to the process, and the automated employees take on repetitive, physical tasks, leaving humans free to focus on creativity, judgment, and the work machines can't do. Of course, being packed together on land is one thing, but in Japan, the real danger comes when the sea decides to join the crowd. Number 31. Tsunamis regularly slam into Japan's massive coastal cities, creating huge flooding risks. Many urban areas are caught between a flood and a landslide, more on those soon, while also hoping an earthquake or volcanic eruption doesn't join the party. And you thought your weather was bad. The country experiences at least one tsunami a year, with 143 tsunamis since 684 AD being responsible for the deaths of almost 131,000 people in total. Tohoku was unusually destructive, but the country regularly experiences strong quakes that still leave most buildings intact because of the building design they've adopted. Number 30. Because of Japan's intense earthquakes, architects and engineers build with seismic survival in mind, using base isolation, vibration control, and other techniques to keep structures, well, upright and in one piece when the ground starts doing its thing. Schools, for example, have extra fortified walls, not just to protect students, but because they often double as community evacuation centers during major quakes. And of course, a big playground helps when you suddenly need to host half the neighborhood. Number 29, in addition to anti-earthquake infrastructure and engineering, this has led to most Japanese homes being made of one of the most earthquake-resistant materials, wood. The comprehensive strength of wood is 9.5 times higher than concrete and double the strength of steel. Compared to steel and concrete, wood can reclaim its original state, while when steel and concrete collapse and break, they are mostly unsalvageable. Even modern structures of steel and concrete will blend wood into the design to make buildings more earthquake-proof, and 90% of single-family homes are made out of wood. Number 28. These earthquake adaptations aren't just because Japan sits on the Ring of Fire. With limited land for settlements, many of the country's biggest cities ended up on fault lines, because that's the land that was available. As you can imagine, this has caused a fair amount of devastation in the past. For example, the Great Earthquake of 1923 killed between 105 to 142,000 people and led to extensive damage in Tokyo and Yokohama, which ended up being mostly destroyed by fires. In fact, Tokyo, Yokohama, and Osaka are the cities nearest the Japanese fault lines, which is unfortunate as they're also the 3 most populous Japanese cities. Fact number 27. However, the infinite natural disasters waiting to happen have had some unexpected positive side effects. Japan's many volcanoes have produced fertile soils called andosols, so common that the term ando comes from Japanese, coined in 1949 to describe the volcanic earth found across the country. After a volcanic eruption, the rock and ash that settle on nearby plains are geologically young and rich in organic matter and minerals. Their unique structure also holds more water, making irrigation more efficient. Of course, it also means that farmers then have to live in the shadow of an active volcano. And that's far from their only problem. Fact 26. As if earthquakes and volcanoes weren't enough, Japan also sits under the East Asian monsoon. Winters turn cold and dry, summers swing hot and soggy, and some places drown in rain. Yakushima Island alone can see 394 inches, 1,000 centimeters per year. All that water slams into steep mountain slopes, turning hillsides into mudslides. Japan gets hit by 1,000 to 1,500 landslides every year. While they're mostly small, they can still be deadly. In 2021, Atami's streets turned into rivers of earth, burying homes and killing 27 people. For Japan, rainy season isn't just umbrellas, it's a rolling lottery of landslides. We're halfway through our Japanese geography facts, and so far we've covered mountains, more mountains, and earthquakes. Stick around, there's plenty more where that came from. Number 25. Japan lives with so many disasters that it's shaped the culture itself. Locals call it Shōganai, which loosely means this might be awful, but we can't change it, so let's deal with it. It's not something that can be learned from a book. It's something you learn while rebuilding your house for the 3rd time. When the 2011 Tohoku quake and tsunami wiped out entire coastal towns and triggered the Fukushima meltdown, 470,000 people were evacuated almost instantly. And within just over a decade, 400,000 were already back in rebuilt homes. Entire neighborhoods rose from the mud while most countries would still be arguing over permits. In Japan, the potholes get fixed after the apocalypse, while in other places, they barely get fixed after a rainy day. Fact 24. Disasters still pose a risk, and most of Japan's rivers make heavy rain and flooding worse. Their water levels rise and fall quickly, creating frequent floods. But in Japan's endless game of terrible thing, great thing courtesy of its geography, that rain has also fueled a crop crucial to the nation's development: rice. Though rice doesn't absolutely need flooded soils to be planted, it thrives in them in a way almost no other plants do, according to the American Society of Plant Biologists. This is partly because the flooding of rice paddies also controls the development of weeds in the fields. This made Japanese farmers very focused on rice growing, which, in addition to being the ingredient in most of your sushi rolls, was important for something else as well. Fact 23. Japan's suitability for rice cultivation allowed it to sustain far higher populations than expected, as rice is a staple crop capable of feeding large numbers of people efficiently. Because rice is calorie-dense, high in carbs, and relatively cheap, it's also one of the most relied upon foods for feeding and growing large populations. It accounts for 50% of the daily caloric intake in Asian populations today. As countries like Japan grow wealthier and can afford a wider variety of food, rice's share of the national diet naturally declines. Even so, it still accounts for 27% of Japan's total caloric intake, according to Science Direct. As a bonus, rice is also a great source of magnesium, phosphorus, manganese, selenium, iron, folic acid, thiamine, and niacin. Yum! Number 22, that being said, the cultivation of rice led to the establishment of a lot of settlements in flood-prone plains near the country's rivers. This has left 20% of the population living in areas at risk of flooding. In 2020, that translated to 25.94 million people living in flood zones, a 3% rise in the past decade. That's compared to a 1.5% decrease in Japan's general population. But more people are buying land in these areas because it's cheaper, for obvious reasons. Fact number 21. Japanese farmers often built right on floodplains, which forced them to get clever early. As far back as the Nara period in the 700s, they were throwing up levees and drainage channels to tame rivers that could rise and fall in a single day. That survival instinct never went away, it just scaled up. Today, Japan runs some of the most advanced flood defenses on Earth. North of Tokyo sits a colossal underground cathedral of concrete in Saitama Prefecture. 5 shafts, 213 feet 65 meters deep, connected by a 4-mile, 6.4-kilometer tube system. It can divert over 7,000 cubic feet, 200 cubic meters of floodwater per second into the Edo River. For comparison, that's roughly an Olympic swimming pool every 12 seconds, or like opening over 12,000 fire hoses at once just to keep Tokyo dry. Fact 20. Japan's rivers are a mixed blessing. Fed by steep mountains, they're short, shallow, and fast. More like whitewater rapids than the wide, lazy Mississippi. That means floods are common and navigation is basically impossible, cutting off rivers as a highway between cities. But what rivers denied, the sea provided. With countless natural harbors, Japan leaned hard into maritime trade, building ships instead of riverboats. By World War II, that strategy paid off. The Japanese Navy wasn't just the third largest in the world, it was arguably the most modern, while America was still floating battleships that looked like antiques. After World War II is a different story, but we'll get to that soon. Number 19, the other benefit of having small, rapidly moving rivers is being able to harness them for green energy, more specifically, hydropower. According to global data, hydropower accounted for 8% of Japan's total electricity generation in 2023, and 14% of its installed capacity. Compared to other countries, even those with plenty of rivers and water, that's a huge percentage. By comparison, hydropower provides 6% of US electricity and just 3% of Germany's. Not only is hydropower a great source of green energy, but it's also a great source of domestic energy, which is important for Japan because, number 18, once the world hit the industrial age, Japan found itself at a real disadvantage. You know how some natural resources have supercharged other countries' economies: petroleum, natural gas, and coal for energy, or iron ore and other minerals for manufacturing and exports. Japan has none of those. Well, almost none of those, but definitely not nearly any significant amount to support their now massive economy and population. The country is estimated to have 44 million barrels total in oil reserves, equivalent to the amount of oil Saudi Arabia produces every 4 days. That means Japan imports 87% of its energy, making it the world's second largest importer of natural gas, coal, and agricultural products. It's also the third largest importer of oil. Leading us to number 17, that pushed Japan to expand its nuclear program, and by 2010, nearly a quarter of its electricity came from domestic reactors. But just a year later, another of Japan's geographic hazards would shut down this source almost entirely. You guessed it, the massive 9.1 Richter Tohoku earthquake triggered a 49-foot, 15-meter tsunami. This caused a meltdown at Fukushima nuclear power plant, not to mention $300 billion in general damages. Fears of more meltdowns and public outcry shut down nearly all of Japan's nuclear plants, forcing the country back to heavy reliance on energy imports. As of 2023, only 5.5% of its power comes from nuclear power. Fact 16. In addition to being reliant on imports for energy, Japan's relative lack of arable land and focus on rice means it's also dependent on imports for food. According to the USDA, Japan is the world's third largest importer, largely due to its reliance on foreign meat, produce, and other foods, totaling nearly $50 billion, or 60% of its caloric intake, in 2010. It also imports significant agricultural goods such as rubber, along with half of its meat supply, since limited flat arable land means there are few large pastures for raising cattle and other livestock. Though those animals do exist in Japan, they don't produce enough meat to sustain the population. Number 15, however, needing so many imports and being unable to produce much energy or diverse food supplies of their own did have a hidden benefit. It motivated Japan to focus all its resources on developing its industrial sector. After World War II, the government pushed rapid manufacturing growth and built a strong export economy, focusing on what Japan could produce at scale to gain leverage in trade. Number 14, Japan's industrial boom turned it from a rice farming nation into an economic rocket in the 20th century. Steel, cars, and then consumer electronics poured out so fast that by the late 1960s, trade surpluses were practically routine. In the 2 decades after World War II, GDP often grew by 10% a year, numbers that would make even Silicon Valley jealous. Things have cooled since, but by the 1980s, Japan had vaulted into the ranks of high-income nations. Today, with a GDP over $4 trillion, it remains one of the world's largest economies. Proof that in a single generation, Japan jumped from ox carts to Toyotas, Walkmans, and skyscrapers faster than America managed in its entire Gilded Age. Fact number 13. The development of Japan as a major export hub was helped by its location as well. The island country is right on the path of some of the world's most popular trade routes, providing a gateway to East Asia. With its plentiful natural harbors, long coastline, and location on the Trans-Pacific route between North America and East Asia, Japan was well placed to become a trade hub. Fact number 12. Japan's dependence on imported energy comes with a big catch. It all has to squeeze through choke points like the South China Sea and the Strait of Malacca. If a rival ever blocked that route, Japan's economy would grind to a halt overnight. For now, the US Navy keeps those lanes open, but as Washington looks inward and alliances wobble, Japan may have to lean on its own muscle. Luckily, it has one of the most advanced navies on Earth, and when it comes to keeping enemies out, geography itself provides an even bigger shield. Fact number 11. Japan's greatest defense has always been geography. It's not just an island. It's an island sitting 497 miles, 800 kilometers away from China with an open ocean between. Then there's the mountains waiting to grind any invasion to a halt. Compared to its nearest neighbor, South Korea, Japan has the clear edge in size, population, and military power. That natural fortress explains why Japan has almost never been successfully invaded. Even the Mongol Empire, the most powerful war machine of its time, tried twice in the 1200s and failed both times. The only real exception came after World War II, when the US occupied Japan, but only after dropping 2 atomic bombs, because a conventional invasion would have cost millions of lives. We're down to the top 10 reasons why Japan's geography works. What surprised you most so far? And don't say mountains. Fact number 10. Thanks to its island geography and location in the Pacific, Japan enjoys a milder climate than many places at the same latitude. The surrounding sea moderates temperatures, a difference you'll notice if you've spent a winter in Seoul and then one in Tokyo. In January, winter temperatures in Tokyo range, on average, from 41 to 49 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 to 9.5 degrees Celsius, while in nearby Seoul, they range between 20 and 35 degrees, negative 6.6 to 1.6 degrees Celsius. Another feature of Japan's climate also helped it repel outside invaders. Fact number 9. When Kublai Khan launched Mongol invasions of Japan in 1274 and 1281, they failed partly due to fierce Japanese resistance and partly because both times typhoons blew in and absolutely wrecked the Mongol fleet. The Japanese saw these typhoons as divine intervention, naming them Kamikaze winds. But the strength of the Japanese army shouldn't be overlooked. In fact, Japan's current reputation as the home of anime, Nintendo, and cherry blossoms has somewhat obscured its extremely aggressive military history, as you'll soon see. Fact number 8. This relative isolation and lack of invasions have also influenced business culture and the fact that multiple Japanese businesses go back hundreds of years. There's even a specific word in Japanese for businesses over 100 years old, Shinise. Japan is home to 140 businesses over 500 years old, and at least 19 that have operated for more than a millennium. That's older than most countries, and probably some gas station hot dogs. Fact number 7. Japan's easy-to-defend position and constant need for external resources have led it to go rogue more than once. attacking multiple neighbors at the same time. Because, like a petulant toddler, if you can't trade for what you want, you just take it. In the run-up to World War II, Japan went on a conquest spree, taking Taiwan and Manchuria from China, Korea, and Germany's South Pacific Islands. Then, for good measure and plenty of natural resources, they invaded China itself, followed by Indonesia and the Philippines. Before long, they joined the rest of the world in a little skirmish we now call World War II. Fact number 6. Though World War II ended a long time ago, you may be surprised to hear that technically Japan and Russia are still at war. That's right, the two powers never signed a peace treaty at the end of the war because of a dispute over the Kuril Islands, northeast of Hokkaido. Japan claims this stretch of islands as their own, Russia says niet, and the issue remains unresolved. The islands are important to both countries because not only are the waters around them absolutely teeming with fish, but they're also located in an important strategic position. They provide Russia with easy access to the Pacific Ocean, as well as options for military bases and missile systems closer to Japan. Number 5. Before industrialization, Japan didn't need much from the outside world, so it chose the opposite of conquest: total isolation. For centuries, the country swung between invading your neighbors or slamming the doors shut. From 1639 to 1853, during the era of Sakoku, or locked country, foreign nationals were banned, and Japanese who left faced death if they tried to return. The shogunate wanted to shield its people from outside influence, especially Christianity pushed by Spain and Portugal. Only China, Korea, and a carefully supervised Dutch outpost were allowed in, as long as the Dutch stuck to trade and kept religion out of it. The policy worked. It preserved Shinto and kept Western culture at bay. But it also left Japan lagging behind, creating problems that came roaring back once the rest of the world showed up with steamships and cannons. Fact number 4. While it's unfair to say that previous isolationism is the only reason behind Japan's emphasis on ethnic homogeneity, it definitely is one of several factors. And that has kept Japan's historic immigration policies relatively strict, even though they have started opening up recently. Today, up to 2.96% of the Japanese population is foreign, below the world average of 3.6%. And it's way below the average in OECD countries, which is closer to 14.7%. On one hand, every country has the right to set its own immigration policy. On the other, Japan faces a major problem. One, its reluctance toward immigration is only making worse. Fact number 3. Japan's biggest crisis isn't an earthquake or tsunami. It's demographics. Birth rates have collapsed to 1.15, barely half of what's needed to keep the population stable. At the same time, people are living longer than almost anywhere else, over 84 years on average. This means that nearly a third of Japan is already over 65, and more than 10% are 80 or older. That leaves too few young workers to carry too many retirees. In 1970, 5 workers supported each retiree. By 2025, it's just 2, and by 2050, it'll be 1-to-1. A pension system hanging by a thread. European countries face similar issues, but many offset them with immigration. Japan's strict policies means there's no backup plan. Fact number 2. The increased labor shortage in Japan due to the aging population contributes to a culture of overwork. Overtime is expected, and even sometimes written into company contracts. In 2022, Japan's health ministry found that 10.1% of men and 4.2% of women worked over 60 hours a week. This leads to a host of health problems known as Karoshi, death by overworking. Workers will develop strokes, cardiac arrest, and myocardial infarctions primarily caused by exhausting, overly long work hours. And finally, fact number 1. Housing in Japan is another stress test. Prices are steep thanks to dense cities and strict building codes designed for earthquakes and typhoons. But unlike in the US, where a home is often seen as a lifelong investment, Japanese houses lose value fast. Within 30 years, most are worth almost nothing. As Penn State's Jiro Yoshida puts it, the half-life of a Japanese home is just 38 years. In the US, it's closer to 100. That's why half of all Japanese homes are torn down before they even hit middle age, making housing feel more like a car purchase than a retirement plan. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please consider subscribing and turn on notifications. Really does make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on MatPack.